the next statement in the Yoga Sutra is it's a now instruction in yoga practice. The next one is the definition of yoga. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the ending of the fluctuations in consciousness. That's what yoga is. Yoga is the ending of the fluctuations and changes in consciousness. And when you end those fluctuations and changes in consciousness, the next statement is, then the seer, or your spirit, abides in its own nature. And that's what we're aiming to do. We're aiming to abide in our own nature. And the talk I'm going to give tomorrow will help expand upon this when we look at Sri Yukteswar's holy science. But oftentimes people talk about the world from a spiritual perspective as though it's an illusion, like it's not real, right? Well, it is real, but it's not permanent. That's the issue. And if we think about that, that is why we experience suffering, because we want this physical reality, which is always changing, to be permanent, to be something that stays the same all the time. And what we're learning to do with our meditation, our spiritual practice, is to acknowledge the physical, because it is an expression of the infinite, but to pull back into where does that come from. All right? I'm going to go over this again tomorrow, but if you think about it this way, imagine I've got a circle, a big circle here. And that big circle is pure spirit, whatever you want to call it, God, the infinite consciousness. That exists. That exists whether anything else exists or not. It is there. So you have the circle of infinite consciousness. And then you draw a smaller circle inside of it, and that comes from spirit. And that's where we get, we'll call it the causal realm, or the realm of ideas. All right, so now we have infinite spirit manifesting this causal realm, this realm of ideas. Well, infinite spirit exists without that causal. It's a projection of infinite spirit, but it exists without it. Now we've got this causal realm, and now we draw a smaller circle inside of it, which is the astral, or the energy, your emotional nature, the area of your dreams. Well, that exists, but the causal and the spirit will exist whether that exists or not. And then from the astral, we can draw a smaller circle, and that's where we get the physical manifestation of the world, the stuff that we feel here right now. And so, yes, that exists, but if this goes away, the astral is still there. If the astral goes away, the causal is still there. If the causal goes away, pure spirit is still there. So what we're learning to do with our meditation is not to ignore or demonize the physical. We're learning to withdraw our awareness back through these phases of consciousness so that we can know what is eternal and what is true, and then we can relate appropriately to these other stages. Do you understand what I'm trying to get at with these kind of onion levels of things? Like an onion skin within an onion skin. And Isha Das was talking about the different states, like the deep sleep state and the waking state and so on. Well, meditation isn't meant to put you to sleep. It's not a passive state. Meditation, for the purpose of our understanding with Kriya Yoga, is not a relaxation practice. If you need to relax, it'll help. But if you need to relax, you can do some other things. What meditation is aiming to try to get you to do is to learn to navigate, to be, is everybody awake? Okay, everybody's awake. Okay, great. You can see me, I can see you. That's as awake as we're going to get right now. So imagine if how you are experiencing the world right now, looking at me or looking around, imagine if that level of presence was still there when your body was completely asleep. Imagine if that level of alertness, that level of, what's a good word? we'll just say alertness, that level of alertness or presence was there if you were dreaming right now. Because when you're dreaming, most of us aren't really conscious in the dream. We wake up later and we say, oh, here's what happened. But it's not like we're in the dream and we're saying to ourselves, oh, that's a weird elephant. It's not like we're in the dream and wondering like what the donut's doing up there. It's we see it, but we're not conscious of it. But right now, hopefully, we're all fairly conscious. And what we're aiming to do is to ride that razor's edge inward so that we can maintain that state of presence through the dreaming, through the deep sleep state. And I really loved how Ishadas talked about when you wake up in the morning, there's that moment before you're fully awake and you're engaged in your day, but yet you're not quite asleep, and you actually feel really good. Like there's a sense of like freedom there, because you haven't fully identified with whatever you've got to do that day, and you still have that sense of freedom. That is, in a way, sort of a taste of that bliss that is described when they talk about what we're here to do is to experience being, consciousness, and bliss. It's that kind of freedom. When you look into Yogananda's eyes or Ramana Maharshi's eyes, or someone who's experienced this, the reason you experience such peace when you see that is because that is where they are abiding. And that is where you need to abide to be able to feel that yourself. And what I have described to you and what we've practiced with chanting through the chakras is how to get there.